I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic.
Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello. Many people on the right, to include myself, have been telling the American people for quite some time now that the Department of Justice has been weaponized by the Biden administration, that they are a political hit piece for Joe Biden. If you ever needed proof of that, which many on the left do, well, here's your proof. Many disputes between the Justice Department prosecutors and the FBI agents over how best to try to recover classified documents from Donald Trump's Mar-A-Lago residence led to a tense showdown prior to the raid. Department of Justice prosecutors argued that Trump was knowingly concealing secret documents at his Palm Beach, Florida home and urged the FBI to conduct a surprise raid at the property. But two senior FBI officials who would oversee leading the search resisted the plan as too combative and proposed instead to seek Trump's permission to search the property, which, by the way, is exactly the kid glove treatment that they gave to Joe Biden with his records at his home and his offices. But Department of Justice prosecutors ultimately prevailed in that dispute. One of several previously unreported clashes and a tense tug-of-war between two arms of the Justice Department over how aggressively to pursue a criminal investigation of a former president. The FBI conducted the unprecedented raid on August 8th, as you all know, and recovered the documents despite the FBI agents in charge who said this was not the way it should be handled. Starting in May, 3 months before the raid, FBI agents in the Washington field office had sought to stop the probe altogether, urging caution given the extraordinary sensitivity. This account reveals for the first time the degree tensions among law enforcement officials and behind-the-scenes deliberations as they wrestled with the national security case that has potentially far-reaching political consequences. The disagreement stemmed in large part from worries among officials that whatever steps they took in investigating a former president would face intense scrutiny and second guessing by the people inside and outside of government. However, the agents who typically perform the bulk of the investigation work in cases and the prosecutors who guide agents work and decide on criminal charges ultimately focused on very different pitfalls. On one side, Department of Justice federal prosecutors and the department's National Security Division advocated aggressive ways to conduct the raid and get the documents. But on the other hand, FBI agents in the Washington field office urged more caution with such a high-profile matter, recommending they take a cooperative rather than confrontational approach. The FBI agents' caution also was rooted in the fact that mistakes in prior probes of Hillary Clinton and Trump had proven damning to the FBI. and the cases subject the Bureau to sustained public attacks from the people. The Justice Department and the FBI declined to comment on this matter to the public. Attorney General Merrick Garland testified in front of Congress. He was asked point blank about this report at the Senate hearing yesterday. I'm sorry, it was Wednesday. Yet the AG said he could not describe the investigation, but added that in his experience as a prosecutor, there's often a robust discussion, and it's encouraged among investigators and prosecutors. He said it is not unusual for FBI agents and Justice Department prosecutors to disagree during an investigation on how aggressively to pursue witnesses or other evidence. Often those disagreements are temporary flare-ups that are debated, decided, and resolved in due course. While the FBI tends to have great discretion in the day-to-day conduct of the investigations, it is up to prosecutors to decide whether to file criminal charges, and, like the prosecutors, the director of the FBI ultimately reports to the Attorney General. The Mar-A-Lago case was unusual not just for its focus on a former president, but in the way it was closely monitored at every step by senior Justice Department officials. Garland said he personally approved the search of Trump's property. Then in November, before prosecutors had finished their work and decided whether to charge Trump, Trump announced his campaign to retake the White House in 2024, leading AG Garland to appoint special counsel Jack Smith to complete the investigation. The department and other senior national security prosecutors, including Assistant Attorney General Matt Olson and George Takis, a top counterintelligence official, met about a week before the August 8th raid with FBI agents on their turf inside the FBI's conference room. The prosecutors brought with them a draft search warrant and argued that the FBI had no other choice but to search Mar-a-Lago as soon as practical and possible. Prosecutors said the search was the only safe way to recover the documents. But Stephen M. Deonto, then the head of the FBI Washington field office, which was running the investigation, was adamant that the FBI should not do a surprise raid. He said he would agree to lead such a raid only if he was ordered to do so. Tempers ran high in the meeting. Jay Bratt raised his voice at times and stressed to the FBI agents that the time for trusting Trump and his lawyers was over. The FBI officials complained how bad it would look for agents with FBI printed across the back of their jackets to invade a former president's home. The FBI's top agent official, Alan E. Kohler Jr., then asked the senior FBI agents to consider how bad it would look if the FBI chose not to act and government secrets were hidden at Mar-a-Lago. The FBI supervisor also questioned why the search would target presidential records as well as classified records, particularly because the subpoena had only sought the latter. He said, "We are not the presidential records police." He then asked if Trump was officially the subject of the criminal investigation. "What does that matter?" Bratt replied. Bratt said the most important fact was that highly sensitive government records probably remained at Mar-a-Lago and could be destroyed or sprinted away if the FBI did not recover them soon. FBI agents on the case worried the prosecutors were being over-aggressive. They found it worrisome, too, that Bratt did not seem to think it mattered whether Trump was the official subject of the probe or not. They feared any of these features might not stand up to scrutiny if the Inspector General or congressional committees chose to retrace the investigators' steps. The FBI agents then drafted a possible script that could be used to pitch to Trump's lawyers on a consensual search, and said they could keep surveillance on Mar-A-Lago and act quickly if they saw any scramble to move such supposed evidence. The Department of Justice prosecutors refused, saying it was too risky. Eventually, FBI agents found ways to make the search less confrontational than it otherwise could have been. The search would take place when Trump was in New York and not at Mar-A-Lago. The Secret Service would receive a heads up a few hours before FBI agents arrived to avoid any law enforcement conflict. And agents would wear white polo shirts and khakis to cut a low profile than if they had wore their traditional blue jackets with FBI insignia. Then on November 15th, Trump took the stage at Mar-a-Lago's ballroom at the same property where the FBI had searched 3 months earlier and announced that he would run for president again in 2024. The Justice Department's National Security Division leaders, who had pushed the FBI to be more aggressive pursuing Trump, had not yet finished the investigation or reached a charging decision. So, November 18th, A.G. Garland sent word to the prosecutors working on both of the probes to come to the Justice Department for meeting that morning. He wanted to privately inform them that he planned later that day to appoint a special counsel. Garland told them then they could choose their next step, but he hoped they would join the special counsel's team for the good of the investigation. Just after 2 p.m., Garland stood before cameras to announce he had appointed Jack Smith to take over the investigations. Flanked by 3 of his top deputies, Garland and the Justice Department had the integrity to continue the investigation fairly, but that turning them over to an outside prosecutor was the right thing to do. When A.G. Garland was asked at the congressional hearing by Senator Josh Hawley directly if he had any conversation with the Biden White House about the Mar-a-Lago raid prior to doing it, or at any time that they were even discussing it, Garland refused to answer the question. This was, as I've reported, and so has many other people on the right, a political hit job. They treated Donald Trump one way, and they treated Joe Biden another way. Both, as it turned out, had classified documents. Trump's classified documents at least were secured inside Mar-a-Lago and had Secret Service watching over Mar-a-Lago. On the other hand, Biden had documents all over the damn place. Both of his offices, his residence, in his garage, next to his Corvette. Both, regardless, look bad. Trump has said, as president, he declassified the documents that they took while he was still president. Biden, on the other hand, wasn't president when he took the documents. He was a sitting member of Congress and a vice president. That is also illegal. Yet, the Justice Department chose to ask Joe Biden if they could go look for possible documents. They did not do a big raid. They did not have cameras all there to show the public what was happening. And furthermore, it's all been swept under the rug, and nothing will happen to Joe Biden for what he did with classified documents, while Donald Trump, on the other hand, is being prosecuted fully by our Department of Justice for his document case. Hypocritical 101 comes to mind, and the destruction of our justice system pops right into my mind, and I'm sure many of you. It is absolutely disgraceful what is happening to the justice system in the United States of America under this current administration. It has become nothing more than a hit piece for Joe Biden personally. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America and each of you. Tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the live Douglas Ducote Show. Until then, take care and God bless.